Hello everyone, welcome back to the Boudoir. I'm your host Ieasha Jones, and we have to do it, guys. Sorry, we have to do this movie. I know. This is the one that I was kind of like not looking forward to, not because I thought it was gonna be bad because of her, but just for obvious reasons. This is the penultimate movie in the Disney Princess series here on the Boudoir, Pocahontas, 1995. Now, of course, I've seen all of these movies as a kid, right? So I did see this movie. I don't really have too many memories of it, so when I went back to do this rewatch, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into, but what I did know for a fact was that it was going to be a hot mess in terms of storyline, in terms of racism, in terms of just why did we do this? And I get it. This is the 90s. Disney probably thought they were being so woke and so like ahead of the curve. And it's strange because in a lot of ways they kind of were. Like, it sucks because this movie did not need to be made. It should not have been made. But like, there's so many good messages and moments and animation moments and breakthroughs and musical scores in this movie that it's just like, it's frustrating because if we would have done this in a completely different way, separate from the blatant just why, you know, it could have been so much better. We could have had magic on our hands, and it's like we do but we don't, you know. And I'm not gonna sit here and speak for natives because it's not my place, and I hate when people do it to us and say like, oh, this one black person said it wasn't racist, so it's not like I no. Okay, so I will not be speaking for them, but what I will say is I find it distasteful. I think this was just, it shouldn't have been done. We're here now, I watched it, we're gonna talk about it, but I just have to get the obvious out of the way that this was just, it's just not cute. It's just in the way that we wouldn't do a slave master princess, in the way we wouldn't do, like, we wouldn't have made Anne Frank into a Disney princess. And I didn't talk about the racism in, or I should say Orientalism in Aladdin, because I just didn't, but like that was obviously there. The mixing of the Indian cultures with the Middle Eastern culture, like we didn't know what we were actually doing there, but at least she wasn't based on an actual person, whereas Pocahontas was based on a real person who had a completely traumatic story that should not have been romanticized one bit. Like, it just was like, ew. You know, not cute at all. Now I am gonna go through the story, but I'm just gonna give all of my thoughts up top. I think that the musical score is probably one of the best I've seen in this whole series. Like, Colors of the Wind, fantastic. That's what I'm saying. Like, the lyrics were so real, the lyrics were so true. Just Around the River Bend, like, everything, it could have been magical, but it just, no. And I feel like if we would have kept it between a story of Pocahontas or like just a native girl and Kocoum, I think if we would have done that, I think they could have salvaged it a little bit more and not had the whole colonialism aspect. I don't know. It's just, I think they could have done so much more with it, but instead we got this blatant racist romanticization. Pocahontas as a character, I love her. I love her animation style. I love her character design. She looks so strong. I love her like angular features. It just looks so striking, but it still has that like classic Disney vibe to it. Like, especially during Just Around the River Bend, I loved the watercolor of it all. I loved all the color palettes in it. Like, it was very visually stunning, a lot of moments in this movie. Same with the music. Like, a lot of it was very moving, it was very touching. Like, I believe they used Broadway producers and composers to make this soundtrack, if I remember correctly, which is really cool. But yeah, let's just get into the movie. All right, so we're in London, the year is 1607, and we're on this stank cruise because we all know that them people stank in the 1600s, which is another reason why I'm like, girl, why would you pick John Smith? Like, yes, I'm giving spoilers, I don't care. Why would you pick him? He probably stank, his breath stank, they didn't have plumbing, the smell of it all. I'm just picturing the smell. Is anybody else, that's all I can think about is the stench that would be emanating from their pores at all times. They're all preparing for this voyage, and you know, everybody's glazing John Smith. They're like, oh, John Smith, because he's like the town hotshot, he's like the captain of the ship, he's the best shooter, he's the best fighter and everything. So like, everybody's just praising this guy, right? And they are on their way to Virginia to fight the Indians, to colonize their land, to create their new settlement. In the midst of all this, though, a storm erupts and it caused the ship to go awry, and this red-headed guy who is like this kind of underdog lackey army man, like, he wants to be like a John Smith, he wants to be regarded as somebody who's like one of the greats, but he kind of has a soft heart and they kind of poke fun of him for that. So he ends up falling into the ocean, and the crew's like, why would you jump in and try to save him? Because, you know, John kind of has this like hero complex about him, typical like white savior, oh, I'm gonna come in and swoop in, you know. So he jumps into the water to save Thomas, the redheaded guy, and they're like, why would you do that? Like, you could die. But you know, it's John Smith, so he ends up saving him and getting him out of the ocean. And then, you know, he's all proud of himself. He's like, you know, I would expect my crew to do the same thing if it were me. So, you know, this is just me setting the example for how I expect this crew to run as we set off in this voyage. So then the crew's all romanticizing and talking about what they would do with the treasure once they get there. You know, some are saying, I would help my family pay off their debts. I would provide this lifestyle for my family. I'm gonna do this. And then John Smith's like, you know, no matter what happens, I'm gonna kick all their butts. They're gonna have to go through me to get you know, big upping himself basically. So then we meet the natives and we start to see how they live, and it's complete contrast to this, you know, expedition. You know, everybody's high energy, everybody's wanting to fight for this prize, and then we cut to this like peaceful, tranquil, everybody's very community oriented. We see people harvesting corn, we see people gathering around with their families, everybody's kind of pitching in to be a productive member of this tribe and help out their next neighbor. It's very orderly. They have a kind of a hierarchy, but it's not in a power hungry way. It's kind of just a way to keep everybody safe. Everybody's appointed different roles to kind of preserve the land and make sure that it stays the way it is. So then the tribal leader returned home and everybody's happy. They just came back from this battle with another tribe and everything went well, so they're all celebrating and happy. But then he's like, wait a minute, I see everybody's happy, but I'd be much happier if I saw my daughter's smiling face as well. So we're kind of getting the setup that Pocahontas is this wild child. She's carefree. She kind of just follows the wind, marches to the beat of her own drum. And this is where I'm like, the colors in this movie are so beautiful. Like, it's such a shame. Like, everything looks so pretty. It looks like a watercolor painting. Like, it literally looks like how it probably looked like back then before all of this happened, all this settlement. They really showcased like the peacefulness, the tranquility of how things were pre-colonization. We meet Pocahontas's friend Nakoma and she's like, Pocahontas, your father's looking for you. Like, we can see that this is their typical song and dance. She's kind of like the responsible friend. She's type A, Pocahontas is more type B. You can never really predict what her next move is going to be. And so we kind of see how their relationship works. So Pocahontas is like, okay, my dad's calling me. So she goes up to her little animal friend. She has a raccoon named Miko and a little hummingbird. And we think she's going to run home, but nope, she decides to jump into the lake and dive off of the cliff, and it looks so beautiful and majestic. And then her little animal friends jump in after her, and now we see what kind of personality Pocahontas has. She has a very like goofy, funny, silly prankster type of personality. She tips her friend's canoe over and they kind of joke about that. She's very carefree. She's very like, she doesn't take herself too seriously. She doesn't take life too serious. She kind of just does what she wants in the moment. So they head back to the little tribal meeting where they discuss and recap what happened during the battle, and we see that this man who should have been her love interest, let's be real, I was thinking that it was going to be like a love triangle thing, but no, like we really didn't really get to see much of them. His name is Kokoam and he gets recognized for his fighting skills and his warrior spirit, and he's very stoic. You know, we can tell that this guy, yeah, maybe he's not as silly as her, maybe he's not as like jokey, but he's very much protective of his tribe. He's very much, you know, focused on the mission at hand, and he just wants everything to stay how it is and maintain the order. And then her friend is reading my mind. She's like, isn't he so handsome? Like, what? Girl, why don't you go for him? And Pocahontas is like, yeah, I especially love his smile. But you know, she's being sarcastic because he's literally stoic and just listening to the ceremony. So later on, she's like, Dad, I'm so happy you made it home safe. You know, I'm happy the battle went well. And she starts talking to him about how she's been having this recurring dream of seeing like this arrow that's spinning and going crazy, and she can't quite pinpoint what the dream is about. And she's like, I don't know, Dad, I just feel like something's coming. And her dad's like, yeah, Kokoam, right? Like, he would be a great husband. He would be a provider. He would take care of the tribe. And if you guys ever wanted to have a family, he would be a great dad too. Like, trying to plant the idea in her head. And she's like, ugh, Dad, come on now. He's too serious for me. Like, come on. You never know what my next move is gonna be. You think I need a guy like him? I'm gonna scare him away. So then he's like, Pocahontas, come with me. And they take a little trip to the river, and her dad starts giving her this metaphor, and he's like, you see this river? You see how calm it is, how stable the waters are? That's why they flow so long. They just stick to their stable path, and they're very practical. And then he presents her mother's necklace, and it's the same necklace that she wore during her her wedding day. And we now know that her mother is no longer with us. And Pocahontas is so excited to have her mother's necklace. She feels like she looks like her. She feels like she's more connected to her. And then her dad ends up trailing off. But then as she's thinking to herself, she's like, rivers aren't always stable. Like, there's times where you might turn a corner and it's like the biggest waterfall you've ever seen. Like, there's nothing stable about rivers. They're different waters each time and you can't predict what's gonna happen next. So as she's singing this song, beautiful song by the way, she ends up coming across this diverted path. You know, she sees one path that's just a straight shot. It looks very calm, very peaceful. And then she sees another path that's like a little windy, a little chaotic, but it seems exciting. And this is similar to the dilemma she's facing right now. Does she take the stable path of just marrying and having a family and just doing that? Or should she kind of just continue living her life the way she does, kind of just day by day, not knowing what comes next, but enjoying it for what it is? And I don't know, I think this is what I mean when I say this movie has like little pockets of really good moments. Like, that's so true. I think we've all been there where, you know, maybe your family, maybe you might think you have to take one stable path that just seems like it's the most safe, the most comforting, but you might want to take that risky path. You might want to try your hat in different things. So this is the conflict she's facing, but she ends up choosing the riskier path. And this path leads her to her grandmother Willow, who is her grandmother, but her spirit is now reincarnated into this willow tree. And I just thought that was so cool. I love how they really stood true to like the native way of thinking of like nothing ever truly dies, it just reincarnates back into the universe. And of course, obviously in real life, you know, trees are not talking to you like that with a face and everything, but I like that it's more so visualizing and painting the picture of the idea of looking to your ancestors in different ways, if that makes sense. I hope I described that right. Like, that's the visual representation of your family. Your ancestors are always with you no matter what. God, whatever you want to call it. So she meets up with her grandmother and she's like, Grandma, I have to tell you all about this dream I've been having. And her grandma is so like, tell me everything. Like, right now, drop everything and tell me. And we see that Pocahontas and her grandmother have a very strong relationship, and she's the one that she can go to when she needs somebody to really see her for who she is and hear her out. So then her grandmother encourages her to really listen to her instincts and listen to the universe around her. She says everything has a spirit. The water, the trees, the wind, the sunshine, everything around you is always trying to give you messages. So when you feel like everything is just too noisy and you can't pinpoint anything, just focus on the sounds that you hear around you. That is what's going to guide you and give you the answers you need. And again, I just thought that was so beautiful because, like, I don't know, if you're kind of somebody who lives your life that way too, I just think those are really encouraging words to hear. So Pocahontas is focusing and she really listens and she can start hearing the wind around her. And this wind, the whole time, we're going to see this throughout the whole movie, you know, is different leaves, different colors. And this is the representation of truly listening to yourself and letting the wind guide you, letting the voices in your head guide you, because that's what's ultimately going to lead you down the right path. So as she's listening to the wind, she actually can see these strange clouds. Like, she's seeing this thing, she doesn't really know exactly what it is, but it looks like clouds, but it actually ends up being the colonizer ships, you know, so yuck. So now we're back on the ship and the Governor Ratcliffe is all giddy and happy about the treasure. He has this little pet pug and this little lackey sidekick assistant, which I thought was kind of funny, you know. John Smith's like, sir, I won't let you down. Our crew is all ready and we're gonna set off and get this thing started. So they make it to the natives' land. They're starting to like suss out the place, check it out. While Pocahontas is out, she spots the crew and she's like, what is going on? Who are these pale-faced people? Like, I've never seen anything like this before. Like, can you imagine how jarring that would be? Like, if you've only seen people that looked like you or like were similar to you, and then all of a sudden you see these people on a ship with like guns and you're like, what? So Pocahontas spots the crew, specifically John Smith. Like, she's just very interested in this specific man, and John Smith is looking over by the cliffs and we think he's looking at her, but he's kind of just like looking at the land itself. So he gets on higher ground to look at everything better, and he ends up spotting the raccoon and he feeds him a little snack. He gives him a little biscuit and we find out that the raccoon is a foodie, of course. He gives him some little biscuits, and he ends up like stealing some more biscuits out of his bag. All the while though, Pocahontas is like hiding out in the bushes just watching this interaction take place. And you know, because he gave the raccoon a couple of treats, he's like, hey, Pocahontas, this guy's cool, come over here. And then she's like, wait, I don't want to be found out yet. He starts to go up to her, but then the hummingbird stops him in his tracks, and he's like, okay, all right, my bad. So now the tribe is having a meeting talking about how these pale-faced visitors have come, and I noticed the difference between how they were calling, the colonizers were calling them savages versus the natives calling them visitors. Like, just the language is different. So then the elder is able to show them the image of what these guys actually look like up close, and they're pale. They have these weird machines that it looks like they can shoot off fireworks, and they're like, okay, we're gonna have to observe them because we've never seen anything like this before. We're used to just using our spears and just fighting people that look like us. We're gonna have to observe these people before we act so that we can know how they behave. So then the governor gets out, he's looking at the land, and he's like, I now declare this place Jamestown. And because he said so, I guess it's now a place. Like, just weirdo behavior. But in the meantime, his little pug is getting a bath, he's all luxuriating and stuff. But then the raccoon comes because he sees this big plate of fruit, and he eats it, and the pug ends up chasing him all over the place. The captain orders John Smith to go find the natives, and then he tells the others to go dig for gold just like the Spaniards did and find me some treasure right now. So John sets off, he's kind of like observing the land, looking at everything, and he's like, wow, a place like this, like I just want a place that has challenges, that keeps me on my toes, like the possibilities of this land. He goes to the river and washes his face, and in the reflection of the water he can see Pocahontas, and they start to have this little game of like cat and mouse. Are they going to go up to each other? Are they not going to? He sneaks up on her with his shotgun, but he doesn't shoot. They end up just staring at each other for a moment, and he puts his gun down in surrender, and she bolts off because she's like, I don't know what this man is and what he's going to do. She's about to leave on the canoe, but he's like, please, just, I'm not going to hurt you. Please come up here and talk to me. And she's like, fine. She takes his hand and she goes up there to talk. The wind guides her to talk to him and says this could be part of her dream. So she ends up going to him. They introduce themselves and they start having some chemistry. The colonizers are still digging for gold, and a little battle ensues between the natives and the colonizers, which the colonizers end up winning. One of the natives ends up getting shot, and that's what ends the battle. The tribe is trying to heal the wound, but because it's so deep and it's because it's from something they've never seen before, they don't know how they can heal it. So they're like, okay, we're gonna need to go crazy on these people because they're clearly just savages. Like, they just want to hurt and kill people. They issue a warning to the whole tribe not to go near them because they're dangerous and we don't know what they're capable of. And then we immediately cut back to Pocahontas and John, and like, this is just where I'm like, this is so gross, because like, how can you juxtapose that with like a love story with, yeah, like, it's just not cute, it's not comfy, I don't like it. So like I said, they're talking to each other, they're showing how they say hello and goodbye, the helmet, all of the things. Miko the raccoon ends up stealing the compass, thinking that it's a little cookie, and then John Smith tells her about how big London is, and like, it's a completely different place from what this is. It's a big city. There's buildings as tall as trees everywhere. And she's like, I'd love to see that one day. And he's like, oh, don't worry, you will one day. And she's like, what do you mean? And he's like, we're gonna renovate this place. We're gonna show you people how to live. We're gonna show you people how to use your own land properly. Like, that's literally what he said. And she's like, what do you mean? We already know how to live. Like, we already have our own systems and our own ways of doing things. We don't need you to show us anything. And he's like, of course you think everything's fine. You people don't know any better than this. So, and she's like, what do you mean? Like, what? And he's like, don't worry, we've helped many savages like you before. We'll help you too. And she's like, what do you mean savage? My people are not savages. And he's like, no, you're not a savage, but we're just saying you people are. Like, just the typical racist spiel, like, ugh. So savage basically equals somebody not white in his eyes. So she's like, how are we savages, but you're literally coming here with guns just ready to kill people at a moment's notice? So then she's telling him, like, you know, these living and non-living things have feelings too. Like, you think it's just a tree, but this tree has been here for centuries. It has a whole story, it has a whole lineage, basically teaching him empathy. Like and we're supposed to think this is cute. Ugh. She's like, how can you want to own the earth but not care for it? Like, how can you want to own everything but not see the actual inherent value that it has? And fun fact, I used to be in choir in like elementary, middle, and high school, and that was one of the songs we sang, Colors of the Wind, and I loved it then and I still love it now. But then Pocahontas hears the danger drums from her tribe and she's like, okay, no, I need to get out of here right now. Something's really wrong. And she ends up leaving. So then Radcliffe is in his little office and he's all mad. He's like, why haven't we found any treasure yet? Like, what's going on? We've been digging for so long. And his little assistant says his line and he's like, oh, maybe because we invaded their land and cut down their trees and stuff, you know, maybe that could be the reason. And he's like, no, it's because they're clearly hiding it for themselves. So Pocahontas and her friend are picking the corn and her father tells her not to go too far because things are really dangerous. You have to stay here. And she's like, okay, Dad, gotcha. And then her father tells her, you know, that necklace makes you look so much like your mother. It's insane. And she's like, wow, thanks, Dad. I miss her every day. And then he's like, you know, don't worry. She's always here with us in the wind, in the trees. You know that. And she's like, you're right, Dad. So once her dad leaves, Nakoma's like, okay, girl, spill the beans. Like, where have you been? What's going on? You've got this look in your eye. Like, you met somebody. Like, tell me. Just in that moment, John shows up and he's like, I missed you so much. Like, it's been far too long. And she's like, oh my God, what is going on here? And Pocahontas is like, please just cover for me. I have to go. I want to talk to him. I want to see what's going on. And she's like, I really don't want to be covering for you like this. Plus, this could be dangerous. Like, you don't know anything about this guy. But she's like, I'll cover for you this one time. Fine. She's like, oh, you're the best. I actually felt bad for her friend because her friend's being so responsible and, you know, she's just doing the right thing. But, you know, this is just how it went. So they go on a walk and he asks her, is there really gold here? Like, where's the gold at? And she's like, I don't even know what gold is. What is that? And she thinks it's the corn because he's like, oh, it's yellow and it comes from the ground. And she's like, oh, you mean corn? And he's like, no, it's gold, like, you know, valuable, quote unquote. And she's like, we don't have that here. And he's like, oh, well, the governor's gonna be thrilled to hear that. And she's like, do you think you guys would leave like if they found out there was no gold? And he's like, honestly, I don't know. I don't really have a home to go back to if I'm being honest. And she's like, well, this could be your new home. Then he has a little moment where he feels like he can see things and he starts seeing Grandma Willow, but of course he doesn't know anything about like reincarnation. So he's like, is that tree talking to me? And she's like, well, talk back and see if it is. And he ends up meeting Grandma Willow. She looks at him and she's like, I can tell this one has a pure soul, whatever. And she calls him handsome and stuff, you know. Grandma approves. The crew ends up finding John, but Grandma trips them with her little tree branches and they run away all scared because like, what? This tree just came to life. So then John's like, I gotta go, but I promise I will see you right here tonight at the same spot. And she's like, okay, bet. And then the grandma's like, he could be the dream man. That could be the one, just saying. So the warriors gather and they get ready to prepare for war. And Pocahontas is urging her dad, please, maybe we should just talk to them. Like, maybe we don't have to escalate things. And her dad's like, sorry, Pocahontas. Like, these people clearly aren't here to talk. They're clearly not here to be civil. So we have to meet them at the level that they're meeting us, which is like rightfully so. They just invaded their homeland. They have every right to protect themselves. So then John goes back and Radcliffe's like, where have you been? Like, what have you been doing this whole time? And John's like, look, these people are not savages. They actually know the land very well and they could help us. And he's like, there's no gold actually. This whole time we've been looking for gold. They don't have gold here. And then Radcliffe's like, look, I said this is my land. I declared this to be my land. From here on out, if anybody goes against me, you are now going to be tried for treason and be hanged. So then Pocahontas is about to sneak off again to go meet up with John Smith, and her friend's like, look, I have to put my foot down because I lied for you once and I'm not gonna lie for you again. I don't want anything bad to happen to you and I think you're being very reckless right now. Pocahontas is like, I'm sorry, I have to go, I have to do this. Nakoma's like, you're turning your back on your own people, you know that, right? Like, you're really gonna go off with them. She's like, I'm trying to help my people. Like, I'm trying to make sure everybody stays peaceful. It doesn't have to be a battle. And she ends up running off. John and the raccoon end up sneaking off too from their own base, and Thomas Salaki is assigned to follow after him and make sure, you know, if anything happens, to kill one of the natives. And you know, because Thomas is the underdog, he's like, okay, this is my moment. They've been making fun of me for not being a good shot. I haven't really been able to prove myself, so this is my moment. And he tries to take it serious. So Nakoma tells Kokoam, look, Pocahontas is in trouble and I think you need to go after her and go see what she's doing. So Pocahontas and John go back to the grandma and they're like, look, we both want things to be peaceful, but both sides just want to fight. We don't know how we're gonna get through to them. And the grandma's like, look, take a look at this river, right? You see that little ripple? You see how it starts off small, but then it gets bigger and bigger gradually? That's what you guys have to do. It might be hard to stand your ground and start something new, but somebody has to do it. So then John's like, you know what? You're right. I'll go talk to your father. I will try to make peace with all of this. And they end up sharing a kiss. Thomas ends up seeing the kiss from where he's hiding, and Kocoum also sees the kiss, and he signals a battle cry and he goes to attack John Smith, but Thomas ends up shooting him dead. And this is where it's like, ugh, because if Pocahontas wouldn't have done that, probably wouldn't have ended up like this, you know? And she feels really, really, really bad about it. And in the midst of this, he ends up breaking her necklace and it shatters all over the place. The tribe ends up seizing John and they order him to death because they think that the death is his fault. Pocahontas' dad is like, look, this is what happens. You went against the tribe and now one of your own is dead because of your recklessness. And, you know, it just drives home the disappointment that she's feeling. Nakoma's like, Pocahontas, I was the one that snitched and told Kocoum that you were in trouble. I'm sorry. Like, I thought you were going to be in danger. So then she takes Pocahontas to see John Smith one last time before his execution. And I'm like, wow, girl, this is your biggest concern. I would feel bad, but you know, she goes to see him one last time. She's like, I'm sorry, I don't know what's gonna happen. No matter what, we'll see each other. And he's like, hey, listen, I'd rather be sentenced to death tomorrow than have gone 100 years without knowing you. Thomas goes back to Radcliffe and tells him that John got caught, and he's like, we ride at dawn tomorrow. We're gonna end this thing right now. Grandma Willow consoles Pocahontas. She tells her, don't worry about it. You just have to go and tell them to stop. You have to fight back. Like, you just have to give it a try. And the raccoon, remember the raccoon took the little compass, so now she has a way to get back home. And it turns out that the arrow on the compass was the arrow from her dream. So it's like all coming back together now. So she runs. They're about to kill John. They're about to execute him. And she says, stop. She stops everything. She's like, please, we don't need to fight about this. We don't need to have all of the violence. She's like, look around. Look at where this path to hatred got us. Like, now we're acting just as bad as the savages. The wind starts to surround her father and he starts to see things the way that she sees it. And she's like, wow, my daughter has such courage to go through all of this just to try to save things. So he's like, fine. He ends up releasing John. He's like, you know what? You're right. We don't have to make things go this far. They release John. They hug. Everybody's happy. And everyone puts their weapons down. The crew on the colonizer side is like, you know what? We actually don't want to fight either. Like, it doesn't need to be all of this, you know? Where has this gotten us? But Radcliffe is not having it. He ends up shooting John because he thinks it's a dirty trick. And the crew turns on him. And Thomas is the one that leads the charge to sentence him to prison. So now the crew sets off back to England, and the crew has come back to get John because, you know, he's all injured and bandaged up, and they're going to send him back to London to get more medical care. And this is the moment where he has to decide, is he going to stay here with Pocahontas? Is Pocahontas going to leave with him? Like, what's going to happen? They're trying to get him on the ship, and John's like, nope, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to wait for her. So Pocahontas comes back. She comes back with her whole crew this time. They have blankets, they have food, they have, you know, medicine, and this is their way of starting over and their peace offering. He asks her to come back with him, but she insists that she stays here. She says, I'm needed here, and I'm really happy this is the direction they went in, because I feel like if she would have left, or like, I don't know, I think this was the perfect ending, but let me not jump ahead. So she's like, no, I'm needed here. And he's like, you know, I wish we could be together, but we're gonna be together no matter what. It's gonna be okay. He sets off back to London, and Pocahontas chases the ship. She goes right back up to her high ground. She looks over at the ship, and this is like the most beautiful, picturesque scene ever. Just her standing tall, the hair's blowing in her wind. You see all the colors, the music gets all intense. She's looking out, and this part almost had me a little choked up because it was just so pretty. The music and everything, and just her face, it looked so strong, and I think she looked so badass just standing on her own like that. And I think that was the perfect ending. Like, I don't think she should not have married him. She should not have done none of that. Like, this is how it should have ended. And that's the movie. That's Pocahontas. So, of course, obviously I gave my thoughts throughout the movie, but I don't think it can be said enough. This was definitely not in the best taste. You know, there's good things about it, but in totality, I don't think this movie should have happened at all. I think it's very distasteful. I think just some things should not have been done. I think this is one of them. Again, I can understand, you know, what the messages this movie brought, like with the whole treating the earth with respect, remembering that everything around you is living, and to have empathy for the things around you. I think the messages are great. I think this could have been such a different story, and it could have been done well, but it just didn't hit the mark, you know, in terms of, it just didn't hit the mark, you know. Music, great, obviously. Pocahontas as a character, I think, is very strong. I think she actually is a very underrated princess in terms of personality. Like, I feel like I don't hear a lot of people talk a lot about her personality personality wise. Love her character, love how mature she is, but also very silly, funny, lighthearted. She knows exactly what she wants. Yeah, like I think a Pocahontas Cocoam story could have been done well, or even just a native girl and Cocoam could have been done well. But yeah, the colonizer fanfic vibes definitely are not cute, but we're here now. We're like 20, 30 years removed. Ooh, Jesus, 30 years removed from this movie. And yeah, so that's my thoughts on Pocahontas. Was she your favorite growing up? Definitely let me know. We have one more movie in this series left, and that is Mulan. And then we're going to, I don't know what we're gonna do after that, but we're gonna do something else. But I do think though I might have to do Princess Tiana, like just because obvious reasons. But don't forget to like this episode and subscribe if you're watching me on YouTube. And if you're listening to me on Spotify and Apple, don't forget to rate this episode 5 stars. I'll see you guys next week. Bye!